everybody, welcome to LAB and my video all about training contract interview technique. The savvy amongst you may have realised this isn't supposed to be a law week, it's supposed to be a broader week, but for a couple of reasons I've decided to rejig things. Mainly, a couple of you said you had interviews coming up this week and you would really like it if I could do this video this week rather than next week, and also I'm hopefully filming something pretty cool for LAB Loves this week, so it made sense to push that back. So I'm really sorry for those of you who don't like change and disruption. I don't like it either, but it's happening and we're embracing it, so let's do it. So first of all, when it comes to interviews, preparation is key. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. I say it every time. So let's talk about a few things that you can do to help prepare for your interview. First thing, read your application. I know that sounds really obvious, but you might not have written it for a while, and bearing in mind that that's the only thing that your interviewers may have to go on about you. So they will be reading that application form inside out, trying to pick out things that are different about you or things they want a little bit more information on. So make sure that you have read your application form inside out and you know exactly what's on there, can talk about every single aspect of it confidently. Second thing, if you can find out who's interviewing you, this is a really good thing to do because it'll help prepare you as well. They might not tell you, but it's definitely worth asking the question with graduate recruitment, because at least then you can have a little bit of a Google about who they are, what kind of level they're at in the firm, whether they're male or female, and you can potentially put a face to the name as well, which will just set you at ease a little bit before you go in. Third thing, research the firm. Obviously you've done that for your application form, but research them on the day of your interview to check that nothing's come up in the news that day or that week, which is really important and you should know about. So make sure the night before and the morning of your interview, you just Google them, go on their website, have a look through the news and just check that there is nothing major that's gone down that you need to know about on that day. Final thing in terms of preparation, this competency grid, which you will recognise if you have seen my interviews video, which I will link hopefully up here, technical skills permitting, or if not, then it will be in the description. I'm not going to go through all of it here, but this you need to commit to memory because this is going to make so much difference in how well you answer your competency-based questions. So very briefly, I've made a list of competencies, an example of when I've used that competency, what skills I showed in order to demonstrate that competency, what I learned from it, and importantly, how I can apply that to being a great trainee and a great lawyer. I will put this up at the end, so don't worry about committing it, but try and find as many examples as you can of where you've used different competencies so you have lots of different examples to pull from in your interview. And if you try and memorise this as best you possibly can, then your competency questions will go really well because you'll just be able to pull off these examples straight out of your head and you won't be sitting there stressing about the examples that you're trying to find. So make one of these, commit it to memory before your interview. Okay, so that is preparation done. Let's talk about what happens on the day. So on the day of your interview, obviously arrive on time. I wouldn't recommend arriving too early because you'll just stress yourself out unnecessarily. So make sure you know where the offices are, go and grab a quick coffee and get there maybe 10 minutes max before your interview is due to start. Then once you're in there, again, remember that you're always being assessed, as I said in my last video, so make sure from the minute you walk through the door, you're very professional, you're very polite to everybody, and while you're in the waiting area, you are still maintaining that professional attitude the whole time. Also, very obvious one, dress appropriately. Guys, super easy for you, suit and tie, jobs are good, and girls, if only it was so easy. Ladies, I feel your struggle, and I would always recommend erring on the side of caution with your dress code. So avoid cleavage and skirts which are above the knee, and try and avoid super tight fitting clothing as well. Fitted is good, but any skirts that are in danger of riding up, or if anything is in danger of coming out that shouldn't come out, then just avoid it at all costs. Always bring a jacket as well, even if it's swelteringly hot. It just looks smart, you can always take it off later. So just dress conservatively, smartly, conservatively, because that's one thing you don't want to be stressing out about on the day. If you can wear something that you've worn before as well, that's always helpful because then you know there's not going to be any issues with it throughout the day. So in the actual interview, often there are two interviewers, sometimes there's one, more commonly two, and sometimes it's a very common tactic to play this kind of good cop, bad cop thing. So there'll be one who is super friendly and then there'll be another one who is just impossible, won't make eye contact, is really evasive, doesn't show you any kind of warmth, is a bit attacking in their nature. Do not let this put you off. It is a very common act to put you off and to see how you deal with difficult clients and to make sure that you can still deal with that. So the way you deal with that is don't react to it. Make sure that you still direct questions to bad cop, even though it's so tempting to direct all your questions to the good cop because they're the ones that are giving the good feedback. This is a bit of a test to make sure that you can still advise difficult clients. If this was a real life scenario, then it may be the case that you've got your client who is very difficult and they've brought someone else with them, but someone else who is super friendly is not actually your client, and you need to make sure that you can still advise your client who may be difficult. This happens all the time, I'm afraid. Real life situations, you are going to come across difficult clients, and the people who are interviewing you need to know that you can handle that and not be flustered. So just know that that is likely to happen and don't let it put you off. It's very, very unlikely that that is happening as a result of something that you're doing. It's just how they are. So just keep doing what you're doing, plow on, make sure you involve them, direct your answers towards them, and continue as if nothing is wrong. Easy to say, right? But do your best to do that. Also, listen to the question. This sounds like a really obvious one as well, but when you know you've only got a short amount of time and you really want to make a good impression, sometimes you grab on to the first thing that's said to you and your mind starts frantically thinking of examples before the question is actually finished. So really try and listen to every word of the question that you are being asked. If you can't think of something straight away, don't worry about just saying, can I have a minute just to think of a good answer? It will seem like the longest minute on the planet, I'm warning you now, but it's so much better to just take a minute and think of something sensible to say than to just blurt something out, because once you say it, cannot be unsaid. So much better just to take a few seconds or a minute. Honestly, we won't judge you for doing that, so much better to do it that way round. When you are answering competency-based questions, think about the STAR model: situation, task, action, result. I was interviewing recently for a position in my team, and that was one of the issues that people really fell down on. They had really good examples of what I was asking them to show, but they couldn't really put that into the STAR model. A particular example is when I asked some of the candidates about a time when they prioritised and how they prioritised. Lots of students could give me really good examples about when they've prioritised, for example, when they were studying for their exams and they also had a part-time job. But actually the middle bit kind of got a bit lost, and they said, well, yes, I managed to keep all my hours and I had good exam results, ergo I must be able to prioritise. But that's not telling me how you did it. That is basically telling me that you may have winged it on that occasion successfully, but how are you going to tackle that in an everyday situation? What's your plan of action? How did you strategise that, and how did that yield a positive end result? And that's going to show me how you are going to do that as a good trainee and a good lawyer. So make sure you factor some methodology into your answer as well, rather than just what it was and the end result. You will probably be asked some commercial awareness type questions, and these are the most stressful, I would say. I'm not gonna lie. It's really stressful talking to potentially partners about your commercial awareness, because you think they probably know a lot more than you, and they probably do know a lot more than you, to be honest. So try and pick something a little bit unusual. If you pick something too obvious, A, they've probably heard it 1,000 times before, and B, they probably know a lot more about it than you do, and they're likely to press you on it and perhaps ask you some difficult questions that you don't know the answer to. So pick something a little bit unusual that's gone on in the news, something that interests you and something they probably won't know about, because then they will be interested in what you are saying and they're less likely to ask you questions that perhaps you don't know how to answer. So that is a really good way of tackling the commercial awareness questions. They might also ask you some slightly off-the-wall questions like, if you're a vegetable, what would you be? Or something like that. Don't worry about that, there is no right answer. They just want to see how you think and if you're a fun individual and can engage in difficult situations. So in these types of questions, don't overthink it. There isn't something they are trying to get you to say, they just want to see how your brain works. So have a bit of fun with it and say something that you don't think anyone else will say and a good reason for saying it. And that's all that's necessary. Also, try not to worry about the length of your interview too much. Some interviews can be really successfully done in 20 minutes or half an hour, and some will take an hour. So if you've got other candidates and you've seen how long they've taken and you think yours is taking much longer or much shorter, this means nothing. As I said in my last video, you don't have to beat everyone else. It's not a competition. You just have to show that you have what they are looking for and you will get the job. So don't worry about that. Last but not least, go in with confidence. You have done so well. You've got to the interview stage, you've got through the hardest bit, which is your application form. So this is such a big pat on the back for you, and you have just as much right to be there as everybody else, as I said last week. So do not panic about deficiencies that you might think you have on your application form. Just make sure that you can talk about them openly and confidently, and just do not compare yourself to other people. Just do the best that you can do on the day. Be confident, be engaging, be inspiring. Make these people want to work with you and want to give you the job. You can't make them give you the job, but you can make them like you as a person, which will make them more likely to give you the job at the end of the day. So I wish you all the very best of luck. I hope this has been helpful. As always, please tell me how I could improve or what you like and what you don't like, and I will catch you in a couple of weeks in my next video. See you later, bye.